Sometimes you sit silently, gazing into a mirror, and find yourself asking, when did I start losing myself? It's not a dramatic collapse or a sudden, loud fall, but a quiet erosion, much like the civilizations Ibn Khaldun described in his timeless Muqaddimah. He wrote that once nations are ruined, they rarely thrive again, and generations that depart seldom return. But what about our inner nations? What about that small kingdom you carry within your chest, slowly crumbling stone by stone? You're not alone in this question. Ibn Khaldun, that brilliant mind from the 14th century, didn't just document the rise and fall of civilizations, he also unveiled the hidden laws governing the human soul. These laws explain why you sometimes feel your life is deteriorating from within, even if it appears flawless from the outside. Imagine waking up each morning, fulfilling your duties, smiling at others, and accomplishing tasks, yet deep down, something is slowly dying, eroding like an ancient castle resisting the winds of time, knowing it will eventually fall. This is what Ibn Khaldun called the lost Asabiyyah, an inner strength that preserves the cohesion of any entity, be it a civilization or a human spirit. When this Asabiyyah weakens, fragmentation begins. So, why does this strength diminish? Ibn Khaldun identified several key reasons. First, there's spiritual indulgence. When life becomes too easy, when we lose the struggle that gives our existence meaning, and when we drown in comfort to the point of spiritual death, that's where the decline begins. This excessive ease, this absence of a genuine challenge to ignite the fire within us, can be a primary cause. You know this feeling well, don't you? When everything is achieved effortlessly, when life becomes a monotonous routine and you lose that inner drive that once propelled you forward. Ibn Khaldun observed this in civilizations. Generations raised in luxury often grew weaker than those who fought for every gain. Second, there's the loss of a greater purpose, that internal compass that guides your direction in life. Ibn Khaldun noted that societies crumble when they lose their shared vision, when each individual lives solely for themselves. When was the last time you felt your life served a goal larger than mere survival and consumption? The third and most dangerous reason is what he termed the death of innate instinct. The ability to discern what is beneficial from what is harmful, what builds from what destroys. In our modern era, we are submerged in a vast ocean of information and choices, losing the capacity to truly sense what is right. Pause for a moment, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, when was the last time you made a decision without consulting 1,000 opinions, articles, or posts? When did you rely solely on your inner intuition? This simple exercise reveals the extent of fragmentation that has afflicted your internal compass. 4. When you lose faith in your intuition, you lose a piece of your soul. Ibn Khaldun himself experienced this during the fall of Al-Andalus and the collapse of Islamic civilization in the Maghreb. He didn't just record historical events. He delved deeply into the hidden causes behind the decline, discovering that the issue wasn't external adversaries, but internal decay, the loss of that Asabiyyah that maintained the entity's strength. You're now experiencing a similar phenomenon on a personal level. Your life may appear stable outwardly, but inwardly there's a quiet erosion, a gradual loss of the power that once animated everything within you. But this is merely the beginning. Ibn Khaldun not only diagnosed the problem, but also offered solutions. Now ask yourself, what is the one thing in my life that still ignites the fire within me? Don't overthink it. The first answer that comes to mind is often the most truthful. There's a moment in everyone's life when they realize something has shifted, not in circumstances or events, but in the very fabric of their being. It's as if an invisible thread has snapped, and pieces of the puzzle are falling away, one after another. Ibn Khaldun called this thread Asabiyyah, but he didn't simply mean raw power or enthusiasm. In his profound understanding, Asabiyyah is that subtle energy that binds the components of an entity together, whether it's a tribe, a state, or a human soul. Ibn Khaldun asserted that Asabiyyah stems from kinship or something akin to it, with blood relations being its strongest foundation. But what if we apply this to your inner life? What is the kinship among your various parts? When was the last time you felt that your dreams, Actions, words, and thoughts belong to the same family. The challenge we face today is the inner orphan, where each part of us lives disconnected from the others. Your mind desires one thing, your heart another, your body cries out from a third direction, and your soul whispers in a language our fragmented minds can't comprehend. This fragmentation isn't just a passing psychological state, it's a deep civilizational ailment. Ibn Khaldun witnessed how civilizations, at the peak of their power, began to crumble internally when they lost the unity of purpose that had directed all their resources toward a single goal. Recall the last time you felt true strength, not physical or financial power, but that inner power that emerges when you clearly know who you are and where you're headed. Those rare moments when everything in your life moves in harmony, like an orchestra playing a single symphony, that's what we've lost. That's the true fragmentation. Ibn Khaldun revealed that all powers, whether civilizations or individuals, undergo a natural cycle. It begins with the Bedouin phase, where Asabiyyah is strong, the goal is clear, and the need is pressing. Then comes the conquest phase, where major objectives are achieved. This is followed by the civilization phase, bringing stability and prosperity. Finally, there's the dissolution phase, where Asabiyyah weakens and fragmentation begins. Where are you in this cycle? Most of us today live in a state of dissolution without realizing it. We possess nearly everything: food, shelter, relative security, yet we've lost that inner hunger that makes life worth living. We've become like those wealthy cities Ibn Khaldun described, which collapsed not because their enemies were stronger, but because they lost the reason for their own existence. But there is hope. Ibn Khaldun discovered that this cycle can repeat itself. A new Asabiyyah can emerge from the ashes of collapse, and new meaning can be found amidst chaos. The question is, how? The first step is what Ibn Khaldun called the acknowledgement of weakness. To stop sugarcoating reality and honestly confront the state of fragmentation you're experiencing. This isn't defeatism, it's courage. It takes genuine bravery to admit, yes, I am fragmenting from within. Yes, I've lost my compass. Yes, I don't know who I am or where I'm going. The second step is to return to primal simplicity, to the state you were in before things became complicated. Ibn Khaldun observed that simple nomadic tribes were able to defeat mighty empires because they retained purity of purpose and simplicity of means. Close your eyes now and recall the last time you felt true peace. Not comfort or pleasure, but that deep peace that comes from knowing you are in the right place, doing the right thing with the right people. When was that, and what has changed since then? The answer to this question marks the beginning of your journey back. Ibn Khaldun taught us that collapse isn't an end, but a reshaping. Every collapse carries the seeds of a new renaissance, but only for those brave enough to see hope in the heart of darkness. Deep within you, beneath all this fragmentation and confusion, there still lies a solid core of truth, a core unaffected by circumstances or the passage of time. This core is your true Asabiyyah, what makes you, you. The task now is to dust off this core, to remove all the layers of fear, doubt, distraction, and disorientation that have accumulated over the years. This requires what Ibn Khaldun called patience in bitterness. To endure the pain of seeing the truth, the pain of acknowledging weakness, the pain of letting go of everything you're accustomed to in order to return to your authentic essence. In the dead of night, when a person is alone with themselves, those rare moments of painful clarity arrive. Moments when you realize that most of what you do every day is merely an escape from confronting one truth. You've lost your way back to yourself. Ibn Khaldun, in his profound reflections on the nature of rise and fall, discovered a hidden law governing all processes of revitalization, whether for civilizations or souls. Particular. He stated that change doesn't come from external forces, but from the renewal of the inner spirit that drives everything else. But how do you renew a soul that has eroded? How do you ignite a fire that has died out? How do you gather the fragments of a self that has scattered over years of confusion? The answer lies in what Ibn Khaldun called the law of cyclical renewal. Every living entity possesses within it the capacity to be reborn. However, this requires passing through three crucial stages. The first stage is conscious demolition. Not all destruction is ruinous, and not all ruin is an end. Sometimes, demolition is the beginning of liberation. Ibn Khaldun observed how ancient civilizations needed to crumble to make way for the birth of new, more vibrant and powerful ones. You are at the same point now. There are things in your life that need to die to be reborn, habits that drain your energy unknowingly, relationships that take more than they give, old ideas that trap you in a narrow box, choices you made in the past for which you're still paying the price today. The most important question is, what is the one thing in your life that, if you let it go tomorrow, would fill you with intense fear, yet you know deep down it's slowly destroying you? This is what must undergo conscious demolition first. You cannot build a new palace on the ruins of an old one without first clearing away the debris. The second stage is sacred silence. After demolition comes silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of fullness. Ibn Khaldun noted that all great renaissances in history began with periods of seclusion and contemplation, periods when leaders and thinkers paused external action and delved into their innermost selves to discover the vision that would guide them. This silence isn't idleness, it's the most active kind of activity. It's the time when you stop trying to fix everything and allow your inner wisdom to speak. When was the last time you sat in complete silence for 10 minutes? No phone, no book, no music, just you, your breath, and those subtle voices whispering deep within you. Try it now. Put everything aside, close your eyes, breathe deeply 10 times, and with each breath, ask yourself, who am I beneath all these masks? What does my heart truly desire? What is the message I was born to carry? Don't rush the answers. Let the questions resonate in silence. True answers emerge from silence, not from noise. The third stage is building upon the essence. After demolition and silence comes the building phase, but not just any construction. It's building upon the true essence you discovered in your silence. Ibn Khaldun was precise on this point, stating that any structure not built on a solid foundation of firm values and principles is destined to collapse, no matter how strong it initially appears. What are your true values? Not the values you learned, inherited, or chose to appear respectable to others, but those values that stem from the core of your being, that you feel in your bones, that you cannot compromise, even if it costs you everything. 2. These values are your new Asabiyyah. They are what will bind the parts of your life together. They are the compass that will guide you from chaos to order, from distraction to focus, from confusion to clarity. But it requires courage, the courage to live according to your true values, even if it contradicts others' expectations, the courage to choose the difficult path that helps you grow instead of the easy one that destroys you, the courage to say no to anything that contradicts your essence, even if it seems tempting. Ibn Khaldun lived this himself. When Al-Andalus fell and civilization crumbled around him, he didn't surrender to lamentation or blame. Instead, he delved into his inner self and discovered his true mission to understand the laws of rise and fall and leave them as a legacy for future generations. He had no guarantees. He didn't know if anyone would read his book or appreciate his work, but he did what had to be done because he was aligned with his essence. And now, what about you? What is that thing you know deep down you were born to do but constantly postpone because you fear failure or rejection from others? That thing is the key to your inner revitalization. It's what will mend the fragments of your soul and restore its strength and meaning. It's not too late. The breakdown you're experiencing now isn't the end of the story, but a new chapter. A chapter you write this time with your own hand, according to your vision, aligned with your essence. Ibn Khaldun whispers to you across centuries, rebirth is always possible, but it requires someone with the courage to begin. Now that you've discovered the reason behind the fragmentation and understood the laws of revitalization, the hardest question arises. How do you translate this knowledge into real change in your daily life? Ibn Khaldun wasn't just a philosopher contemplating from an ivory tower. He was a man of action who practiced politics, justice, and education. He lived at the heart of events and faced real challenges. Therefore, when he formulated his laws, they weren't mere abstract theories, but the distillation of a complete life experience. Ibn Khaldun says, "The lesson is not in knowing the truth, but in acting upon it and persevering until it becomes second nature and habit." This is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge tells you what to do, but wisdom makes you do it, even when it's difficult. The first practice is a daily hour of accountability. Every evening before you sleep, sit with yourself for just 5 minutes. You don't need complex rituals or special settings, just a chair, a pen, and paper. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What did I do today that was fully aligned with my essence? 2. What did I do where I felt inner contradiction? 3. What is the one thing I will do tomorrow to be more aligned with who I want to be? Don't write lengthy answers. A single sentence for each question is enough. The important thing is honesty with yourself, not elaboration or justification. Ibn Khaldun believed that true change comes from the daily accumulation of small actions consistent with grand principles. Each day you truthfully answer these questions, you slightly increase your inner Asabiyyah. The second practice is the major decision test. Whenever you face an important decision in your life, at work, in relationships, concerning priorities, even Khaldun's test, sit in a quiet place and imagine yourself 5 years after making this decision. Don't just think about external outcomes, money, position, or fame, but ask yourself, how will I feel about myself? Will I respect the person I've become? Will I be proud of the path I've taken? If the answer is a clear and unequivocal yes, then make the decision. If the answer is full of justifications and conditions, stop. That decision won't strengthen your inner Asabiyyah, it will weaken it. Ibn Khaldun says that the worst decisions are those that seem beneficial in the short term, but destroy the foundation in the long run. The third practice is building your sacred circle. Every person needs what Ibn Khaldun called a sacred circle, that small group of individuals who share your core values and support your genuine growth. Look around you. With whom do you spend most of your time? With whom do you converse in your deepest moments? These individuals form your social Asabiyyah, the force that either propels you forward or pulls you back. If most of those around you constantly complain, discuss trivial matters, discourage your dreams, or encourage you to stay in your comfort zone, you need to reshape your circle. This doesn't mean harshly cutting off relationships, but it does mean you should start seeking new people who share your vision and purpose, people with whom you feel you grow, not shrink, when you speak. Ibn Khaldun says, "Man is a product of his environment, and if you want to change yourself, first change your environment." The fourth practice is your personal legacy project. A fundamental question: what do you want to be said about you 100 years from now? Not in an obituary or eulogy, but in the real impact you left on the world. Ibn Khaldun lived in a turbulent era filled with wars and collapses, yet he left an intellectual legacy that still influences people today because he focused on timeless fundamentals, not transient phenomena. Identify one project in your life, big or small, that will be your personal legacy. Something you work on not because it will bring you money or fame, but because it expresses your true essence and leaves a positive mark on the world. It might be a book you want to write, an institution you want to build, an influence you want to leave on your children, or a skill you want to develop and teach others. The important thing is that it's something bigger than you, something that will remain after you. This project will become the sacred pivot around which all your decisions and priorities will revolve. The final practice is the weekly renewal ritual. Each week, dedicate 1 hour to what Ibn Khaldun called renewing your covenant with yourself. Sit in a quiet place. Read what you've written in your journal during the week. Review your decisions. Assess your progress toward your true goals. And most importantly, ask yourself, am I stronger internally today than I was last week? Is my inner Asabiyyah increasing or decreasing? If the answer is that it's decreasing, don't despair. This is natural. Growth is not a straight line, but waves. The important thing is to be aware of the overall direction. Remember, Ibn Khaldun himself went through periods of weakness and doubt, but he always returned to his essence, to his mission, to what he truly believed in. And now, after all of this, one last question. Which of these practices will you start tomorrow? Don't choose more than one. Here we stand at the end of this profound journey through the ruins of the soul and the seeds of rebirth. But true endings are always new beginnings, as Ibn Khaldun taught us when he said that the end of everything is the beginning of something else, and the wise person sees the beginning in the heart of the end. You are not the same person who began this journey. Something has shifted within, perhaps something small, but it's real. That first spark of awareness that illuminated the darkness of fragmentation, that subtle pulse telling you, yes, change is possible, yes, rebirth is attainable, yes, I can return to myself. But knowledge alone isn't enough. Ibn Khaldun lived and died fighting to apply what he understood, not just to know it. Now it's your turn to continue the journey, not in grand history, but in your small, sacred, personal history. Imagine for a moment, a year from now, you look into the same mirror you gazed into at the beginning of this journey. But this time, the eyes looking back aren't those of a lost person, but of someone who has found their way. Not everything in their life has become perfect, but they have become cohesive from within. This cohesion is what Ibn Khaldun meant by true Asabiyyah, that strength that allows a person to stand against storms, not because they are fearless, but because they know who they are and where they are going. Now, let me share one final secret from Ibn Khaldun, a secret he didn't explicitly write in his works, but lived in every moment of his life. The greatest victory a human can achieve isn't over external enemies, but over that inner voice that constantly tells them, "You're not enough. You don't deserve this. You won't succeed." This voice is the real enemy. It's what fragments inner Asabiyyah. It's what makes you doubt your abilities, postpone your dreams, and settle for less than you deserve. But now, after all you've learned, you have the weapon to confront this voice. Not by trying to silence it, which is impossible, but by creating another voice, a stronger one. The voice of the new inner Asabiyyah you've built on solid foundations of knowledge, practice, and application. Whenever the old voice whispers, "You can't," the new voice will reply, "I will try despite the fear." Whenever people say, "They won't understand you," the new voice will respond, "I understand myself, and that's enough." Whenever it says, "The road is long and the goal is far," the new voice will counter, "Every long journey begins with a single step." This new inner dialogue is the fruit of everything we've experienced together. It's the practical application of Ibn Khaldun's philosophy in daily life. Now, I want you to recall the point where we began. You're feeling that your life was fragmenting from within. Do you still feel the same way, with the same intensity? Most likely the feeling is still there, but it has changed. It's no longer that blind fear of the unknown, but has become a sacred sorrow for wasted time and a sacred yearning for the true life that awaits you. This transformation from fear to yearning is the beginning of inner rebirth. Ibn Khaldun experienced this transformation when he saw his civilization collapsing around him. He didn't succumb to despair, but transformed pain into understanding, understanding into action, and action into an eternal legacy. You are now at the same point. You have the pain and you have the understanding. What you lack is action. And action begins now, it begins today. It begins with the next step you take after you finish reading these words. Don't postpone it. Don't say, "I'll start tomorrow," or "next week," or "after circumstances improve." Circumstances will never truly improve. They will only change. And true change comes from within, from your decisions, your choices, your courage. Before we part, I want you to make me a promise, not a grand or impossible promise, but a simple, achievable one, that you will apply just one thing you learned today, one thing, within the next week. It might be sitting with yourself for 5 minutes each evening, making one decision you've been postponing, having one honest conversation with someone you love, or starting your personal legacy project. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you do it. Because action, even small action, revitalizes inner Asabiyyah more than 1,000 books and 1,000 lectures. And if what you heard today resonated with you, if it touched something deep inside, if you felt Ibn Khaldun speaking to you across centuries, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with those you care about. Spread this content. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel to stay with us on this journey. But most importantly, write a single sentence in the comments summarizing your personal commitment to change. Write, "My inner Asabiyyah begins with," and complete the sentence with what you feel is appropriate. It could be, "My inner Asabiyyah begins with honesty with myself," or "My inner Asabiyyah begins with the courage to leave what destroys me," or "My inner Asabiyyah begins with the belief that I deserve a better life." Write what comes from your heart, not your mind. Let it be your personal vow to yourself, and witness how merely writing it and sharing it will give you new power to begin. Ibn Khaldun watches you now from history, smiling and saying, "Well done. Now, begin." And I say to you, welcome to your new life. The real journey begins now.